And what is going on, everybody? And welcome to another Ignite Thursday. Making sure everything's up and running. Facebook might be an issue tonight. So if you are not seeing me, I cannot tell. I scheduled this earlier in the week. Facebook came up with some new random thing that it has to be scheduled, I guess, 10 minutes out. I'm not quite sure how that's working. So I do apologize for those people on that might be trying to watch on Facebook. But nonetheless, welcome to Ignite Thursday, and today we are going to be talking about the 4 things you can't get back. And this particular topic I'm talking about today is something that I got from a TikToker that he has motivational quotes and stuff, and he brought up these 4 particular things that I thought was extremely interesting that I could bring on to Ignite Thursday and talk about a little bit with you guys and see what you guys think, what your guys' opinions on this, what your experience is on these things. Also, as well, if there's any other questions you may have, you can always stop me and ask me, and I am more than willing to help you guys in whatever tools, perspective, anything I can provide you guys to help improve your lives. And also, I got this Improvement Lounge sweatshirt from my buddy Sean for the Improvement Lounge podcast. If you guys don't know about the Improvement Lounge podcast, it is another podcast I run with Sean, and we essentially talk about ways to improve yourself, whether that's business, life, health, anything like that. Those are the type of things we discuss. So I am sporting this. We don't actually sell any apparel yet, but if that is something you're interested in, just let us know. Also, I've been actually thinking about doing some apparel for Discover Ignite as well. So again, if you are interested in something like that, just DM me, let me know. The more people I get that want that would be something I'll actually I can create for you guys and start having those out. I've thought about going to different kinds of apparel for Discover Ignite as well, and pushing that way as well. So being said, today, what we are talking about, hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Everything looks good. The first thing I have is the 4 things you can't get back. And the first one I have on the list is words after it's said. And I think this is, we've all been there, right? I think a lot of times we have emotions overtake us. And so a lot of times we try to stop ourselves. We try to not let the emotion overtake us. And so a lot of times we try to think before we speak, right? You've heard that statement many times before. And a lot of times, even for myself, I've gotten into those moments where you're maybe getting really pressed hard. You may be dealing with a lot of different things, a lot of different stresses in life. And so emotion takes over. So a lot of times you'll say something that may, in the moment, maybe just a reaction, but it's not something you really mean. And then you come to find out later that the person will hold on to that, whatever the word or words that you particularly say, right? Because they can be very hurtful towards people. And so even for myself, I'm not perfect. None of us are perfect, right? We say things under emotional times in our lives that we don't really mean, but they just come out because we are frustrated, and sometimes we just don't know how to deal with it. Yes, communication is important, right? But it's also there to understand that you might say something that may be extremely harmful. And so how can you combat that, right? And for myself, I talk about a lot of different things about, trying to be able to stay in the moment. A lot of times trying to be able to be aware of what you say before you say it. And I think that's always important, but that's something emotion will override a lot of different things in our lives. And so understanding that things will be said, you have to, it goes a lot deeper than just the words that you say, right? And trying to be able to not only be aware of what you say before you say it, but be aware of the emotions that are going on in that time. And one big thing I've always found has always helped with this particular thing is to, it's when you always say it's better to not say anything at all than something that you might actually regret, right? And so saying that for myself, I've always been that way where I know my emotions, right? It's like connecting with your emotions and know that, okay, don't let my emotions override the particular situation. I need to take a break. I need to come back to this. And a lot of times you can come back 24 hours later, right? Giving yourself some downtime to really let it sink in and kind of allow yourself to think more deeply about it, as opposed to saying something through emotion. And you notice, like, if you're in any kind of relationship or something like that, emotions can overtake the situation, and then again something will come out, especially if you're essentially being forced to come up with an answer in that given time. And so it's always good, even on the opposite end of it, opposite spectrum of it, to give people time and not force things. And you hear about this a lot of times with you shouldn't go to bed angry, but a lot of times you can't just get rid of emotion, right? There's tools that help you slowly ease emotion and try to get back to being a more calmer state, right? Like breathing and meditation and stuff like that. But sometimes the emotion will override that. And so you need to sleep on it, and you need to be able to communicate that as well, right? Like, hey, you know what? Right now, I cannot give you an answer, and step away. And I think that's important. And you should be considerate for the other person and allow them to give them space and allow them to sit and think about it, or else, you may get an answer you may not want to hear, and that person may not actually mean it. So, I mean, there's no easy way to get around it, but I find that this particular way is the best way, is to be able to be aware of your emotions in the given state. Again, to be aware of that, you have to be present, and to be present, you have to either do some kind of breathing technique to practice being in the present moment, or meditation helps with that. The more you practice, the better you are at it. It's like anything else that you do in life, right? So that's the first one I have. The second one I do have is moment after it's missed. Right. A lot of times we feel, and this is something, when he brought up this particular one, I didn't quite agree with this one, right? Because with the four things that you can't get back, right? The particular moment that you missed, it depends what it is. Like that particular situation with that particular person, it kind of leads down that whole scarcity mindset, right? About, well, if I, give up this person, then this moment, this feeling will never happen again. But you have to realize that there's other people out there in other given situations that occur. They may not be the exact same thing, but they will be similar in many different ways. And so that's what I feel is most important, is that you may not get that particular moment there, but it will come back to you, right? In a different sense, in a different perspective, with a different person, a different situation, but it will be very similar. What's up there, Inspiration John? How you doing? Keep up the good work, man. Makes people connect easier with you. Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I try to be as friendly and as open about everything that is going on, and share everything that I've personally gone through. And I think I think a lot of people can relate to that, and being as open as I can, right? Like, I think it's important to work as hard as you can. And sometimes, I try not at all to paint a picture about going out and doing specific things, or taking pictures at places that I'm not typically doing, right? Like I make changes and I work hard for specific things that I want in my life, and aligning those things to what you want in your life are completely different, right? And so if I can provide the tool set that helps me to get to where I want, hopefully the tool set can help you get you to where you want ultimately. And again, I've been through a lot of different experiences, I think more than most. And so I try to provide a perspective, right? Because I know sometimes I talk about being one-dimensional all the time, and I think it's important to have different perspectives to provide options for you. And a different perspective can really change your life. And that's what I've really noticed, is being accepting of other people, or willing to listen to other people's perspective, being open, and kind of playing the pros and cons to it, and adapting that to your life, to your situation. And hopefully it helps, right? And sometimes just that little bit of perspective, I think, really helps. But I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. So moment after it's missed, again, I don't, particularly agree with that. I think everything that comes in your life is temporary in a sense, right? And so you have to be okay with uncertainty. You have to be okay with things just being temporary and in the moment. And this is why I think it's important to enjoy the moment. Yes, I think sometimes we hold on to moments too much, right? And we don't want that moment to end. I know as good as some things can be, things can't be great forever. Things can be bad forever. And so this is life, right? It's the cycles of life, and really understanding that goods and bads will come, and being okay with that, and being and again, not holding on, because this is what causes you to hold on to things in the past, and then feel like you have to wait for something in the future for things to get better, and as opposed to just living your life and writing your life and making your life a real adventure, right? And that's what I try to do. That's what I try to relay through here. When I talk about discover possibilities and ignite change, is about making your life adventure to the way you want, right? Conforming life to the way you want, not life conforming you to the way it wants you to be, right? And so that's what I try to relay. That's what I try to do. And I know a lot of different times I have a very broad spectrum, and a lot of things I cover is because, these are events and things going on in my life, and trying to adjust to specific events that are happening in your life to help you, just realize that there are moments, enjoying them, but adapting the changes and using tool sets and different skills you can learn and grow, right, with repetition to get to where you want to go, and building confidence and all those things. It's all the same framework. It doesn't matter what you're trying to get to. It's all a very simple framework that allows you to get there. And again, we are human. We like to complicate things a lot of times as much as possible before we actually realize that it is, we always go back to a simpler framework. And we realize that the simpler you can keep it, the more successful you can be, because it's repetitive, right? You can repeat it as many times possible to achieve the different things that you want in life, whether that's through health, finances, through communication, relationships, whatever the case is. It's all the same framework, and building upon that. And again, we have to realize that it's all internal, right? We have to work on ourselves as opposed to trying to make changes external of us, right? It's all internal. If you can make the changes internal, sometimes your environment doesn't agree with that, so you change your environment to where it adapts to your internal side, right? To what you want to see the change in your life. So being said, the next one I have is time after it's gone. Now this is a big one because I talk about trying to make the best of your time, right? The human experience. And again, we tend to forget about this a lot of times. We'll say, oh, well, I got a ton of time, I'll just continue to push it down the road. And a lot of times you look back and it takes, again, some traumatic event that's whether that's a health scare, whether that's for you or for your family member, or someone passes, right? Someone close, you realize the importance of time and where your time goes and how you spend it. And do you want to spend your time in front of a TV, right? That's essentially living somebody else's life, right? We dive into TV, we dive into video games or books or whatever. We immerse ourselves in these things because it separates reality from, to where we essentially want to be, to where we're at now, as opposed to trying to change that, as opposed to trying to change that to our lives, right? To make our lives the adventure that we read about, that we watch, right? And actually going out and doing these things. And again, that's different for everybody, right? Someone you may say that's out and backpacking all the mountains and everything. You're like, some people are like, that's great. That's not what I want to do, right? Or some people want to do stock market stuff like I do. Like I love doing stock market stuff. A lot of people may not be interested in that. I wasn't interested in that in the beginning till I really got immersed in it. But there's a lot of different things, right? And trying to, that's why I try to make what I teach very different and adjustable to what you are trying to aim for, because again, the light framework will help you get to where you want to go, and trying to make that change and realize that time is short, and that your minutes, and this is even something I've had to adjust to, right? Like talking about like trying to not let again, my business or my job try to overtake everything that I do, right? And try to incorporate some things as far as like things that I do enjoy, hobbies I do enjoy, and and sometimes I've had to correct myself, right? Because even like the stock market stuff that I do, I thoroughly enjoy it. So I can immerse myself in hours upon hours. And, a lot of people will say, well, you're going to take a break from like just relaxing, right? And for me, it's like, this is my relaxing, right? Like I enjoy what I do so much that it is relaxing too. So even my downtime, like I'll read up on stocks or businesses or whatever the case is. I'll learn about crypto or whatever the case is. I'll learn about something new. And so that, even though it doesn't sound entertaining, that is for some people, right? And I do like hiking, right? I could talk about outdoors and all that kind of stuff. And some people like, I don't want to go outdoors. I don't want to be with the bugs. I don't want to be all these different things, right? So again, it's just adjusting, but realizing that time is important, and where you want to allocate that time, you make sure that you allocate that time to that. What inspired this live? What inspired this live? The live was actually the 4 things you can't get back. And I got this essentially from a TikToker called Creating Wonders. And he goes over like a lot of inspirational quotes, but I came across this particular one, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about as far as what you can't get back, right? And just hit these particular points and talk a little about more in depth, perhaps talk about like kind of deep dive and experiences and stuff like that on what we think. So, I mean, if this is a good topic, I know a lot of different times I've asked about people about topics. If there's something specific you want me to talk about, I know Angela, how you doing, Angela? She's asked me about going over like some financial stuff, which I did Ignite Thursday, I think like 2 Thursdays ago. And I talked about that kind of stuff. So, well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. So time after it's gone, I think, again, is another big one. And reiterate time, right? Like I know they always say you should live each day like you're going to die. I think that's important in realizing that, right? And reiterating that. And there's a lot of times, even for me, like, especially when I start losing motivation and stuff like that. And, even as motivated as I think I can seem at times, right? It's still like, well, I have to, okay, my time is only so limited, right? And I just turned 40, so it's like I'm like halfway home. So so it's like, okay, what do I want to do? And then just do it, right? Because tomorrow is not guaranteed. And I know you hear that many times. Again, a lot of times it takes perspective change to realize the impact, or to realize how much your time really matters. Right? Like your most valuable asset's your time. And where you put it is extremely important. Would you be satisfied, right? If you were to die today, would you be satisfied with what you have done with your life and how you left it? If you were to leave right this moment, like, have you said all the things you wanted to say? Have you done all the things you want to do? Have you experienced all the things you want to do? There's a lot of stuff I would still like to experience. I would still, I traveled a lot when I was younger, and now it's something I want to still do, right? Like I would like to go see the 7 wonders of the world. I want to just do that, right? And I have had crazy thoughts like just being a hobo and jumping on a train, right, and going city to city, and how cool would that be? And it may not be cool to some people, but time is what you make it, right? And again, I think it's our own adventure. How much of an adventure are you really living at this moment? Are you is your adventure limited to working 9 to 5 and just worrying about getting things, right? And this is why I talk about things like about minimalism and stuff, right? Like, do you really want to work for material things, or do you really just want to live life, a happy life, where you don't need a lot, right? And not feeling that gap, that void of purpose and going out and do things, right? And the more I take away as far as like material things and diminish relationships that aren't aligned with my destination, right? Ultimately, I find that I'm more happier and more comfortable with where I'm at, and not really so comfortable because I continue to try to push myself, but ultimately understand that you want those things to align to where you want. And then you find that you're enjoying life, right? You're enjoying the experience because you don't have fear, because you realize that you're in a spot in life that you can really create anything you want. And it's knowing that you have the power to do that. And a lot of times it's hard to see that, again, because I talk about a lot of times you see the destination and where you are, and you're like, there's such a big gap. There's no way I could get there. When in fact, it's just putting forth the effort every day and breaking it down to that simple system that allows you to do that and get there to those things that you want to achieve. So the last one I do have here is trust after it's lost. Now, this is the big one. I agree with this one 100%. It's hard to find trust in someone right after it's lost. Even for myself, like I haven't found any way to get around this. I know a lot of different times I've always tried to, if someone hasn't really allowed themselves, right? Like if they break your trust, it is hard to trust that person. But, I always try to be grateful in whatever kind of interaction I've had with that person, and always try to not be disrespectful to that person, right? If for whatever reason, if it's a personal relationship, professional relationship, if there's something happens, someone breaks your trust, and you just kind of let them go, but you kind of keep that like distance and buffer between you, right? Like there's certain things I could trust with this person, there's certain things I can't. And I think that in itself, when you go into any relationship, you should always have that, right? You should always be that person, right? You should always give those people 110%. That's why I think it's important to have the people in your life that are your close circle, that are people that you are going to give 110%, right? Every time you see that person, that's what you're going to give. And I think when you're doing that, you should allow that person to be able to trust you, right? You should allow that person, you should give that person your all, essentially. And in saying that, you have to understand it is a two-way street. If you're giving someone 110% and then you find that they're not, right? Maybe that person shouldn't be in your circle, right? This is where, and this can be painful, especially if you're trying to break away, I think, from a lot of different kinds of relationships in your circle, and trying to build, especially if you are in one spot in your life and you want to make big changes in your life. I think a lot of times you have to eliminate some of those people in your circle to be able to carry on. It's not saying completely just throw away that relationship, but also need to understand that there are limitations in that relationship, right? I think you set boundaries when you are trying to essentially break away to those other things and build that thing. But when it comes to trust, again, I don't think it's something that you can build back, right? And I think ultimately, we are all human. We are all imperfect. I think communication is a big thing, and it is always reiterated, but we're going to have flaws, and understand that and trying to work through it. But trust, I do believe, is something that is hard to let go. But I don't think it should be something that you hold on so much so that you can't move forward anymore. You can't move forward to your goals, or have that one thing, hold that one thing back, right? Because this one person hurts you, right? I don't think it should affect the different relationships in your life, whether that's personal, again, or professional. Yes, you should be mindful. You shouldn't be blinded by particular things that have happened in your life, right? This is how we learn, obviously, but ultimately understand that I think you shouldn't always put up that wall, right? Because I find that you put up that wall, then eventually it's going to affect the rest of your relationships throughout time. And so you have to realize that was an isolated event, essentially, and learn from it, right? If there's, again, red flags or anything like that, address it. If again, there's more red flags after trying to address it and communicating that, right? I think it's important to, if they won't correct it and you are addressing it, to move on, right? Like that relationship, I don't think should be part of your circle. That's why I think your circle should be small, and it should be people that are very trustworthy, right? That show you the same respect that you show them, no matter what. And again, realize that we are all imperfect. I don't think people that really truly care about you are going to really out to hurt you anyway, right? They're not going to do something that's going to break your trust, right? Because that's something they hold of high value. And when you're a circle, everybody should be holding you, and you should be holding them at high value, right? So again, I think trust after first loss is an important one, because I think we all need to have those people that we do truly use for our stone, right? There's someone that we can go to and we can trust and tell them essentially anything we want and be able to get good feedback from them. And so I think that establishing that, again, may take time depending where you come from. Maybe sometimes you have family that can back you on this. Maybe sometimes it's a personal relationship, again, professional or personal. So with that being said, that's what I have for the 4 things you can't get back. Yeah, that's what I have. I thought it was something different. Want to try something different. I try to throw up some new things, try to get some new ideas on different stuff I go throughout the day, and think of what would be good to being on here on Ignite Thursdays. If you guys have any ideas of particular things that you would like me to talk about or dive deeper about specific things, I can do that. I'm more than happy to do that. If anybody's got any questions in particular, I don't think there's anybody on Facebook or YouTube. But yeah, so if you guys don't got any questions, have a great night. Mark and Angela, thank you for joining me. And till next time, guys, take care, have a good one, and I'll see you later.